Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and what a Week 14 we had. Now we finally got through the Monday night game. We're going to talk about that in a few moments, talk about, like I said, we'll talk about that. I'm sure Miami Dolphins fans and Pittsburgh Steelers fans woke up very happy this morning. New England fans, I'm sure they woke up pretty happy too. I mean, I know they lost to the Dolphins and all that, but they know where they're going to end up probably in the AFC. They'll probably end up in the AFC Championship, maybe the Super Bowl. We'll see what Pittsburgh has to say about that. But yeah, Miami Dolphin fans and Pittsburgh Steelers fans got to be feeling real good about themselves right now. Right now, Pittsburgh's currently the number one team in the AFC based off of seeding. And even seeding or not, I still think that they're the best team in the AFC without a doubt. And then you got Miami now 6-7, but only a game back of that wild card spot. And with Tennessee having a tough schedule coming up, we'll talk a little bit about Tennessee in this show too. Those two wildcard spots could be up for grabs, so we'll see. Miami has to win out in order to make it, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Let's see, what do we got going on for today's show? We got, like I said, the Monday night football game, and then we're pretty much going to do how we've been doing it on every Tuesday show for the football podcast. We'll talk about pretty much anything that's caught my eye in the NFC or AFC, what we learned, how teams are doing right now, and we'll do the same thing for the NFC in the segment after that. Maybe we'll do NFC first and the AFC after that. We'll see how it all ends up. And then for that last segment, we're pretty much going to talk about anything else going on in the world of football and anything else that's caught my eye. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for today's show, what we're going to be talking about. But like I said, man, if you watched that Monday night game yesterday, I mean, I know yesterday on the podcast I was talking about how I still picked New England, but I thought it was going to be a close game. And sure enough, I mean, it wasn't really all that close of a game if you think about it. I mean, I know New England was playing catch-up the entire time, but if you're in a race and you're in second the entire race, I mean, it's not really much of a race, is it? And that's exactly how the game was yesterday. So actually, let's get into the game, talk a little bit more about it. We'll talk about New England after we're done doing the stats, and we'll talk about Miami after we're doing all that. So, like I said, let's just get into it. So yeah, the Dolphins beat New England yesterday on Monday Night Football. They won 27-20. Tom Brady had a terrible time back there playing quarterback, only completed 24 out of his 43 passes, 233 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, was sacked twice. His quarterback rating was 59.5. I hate doing QBR. I don't even know what the heck QBR means. Like, I know that's an ESPN made stat right there. I still have no clue what QBR means. But Deion Lewis only had 5 carries for 17 yards. Did have 5 receptions for 50 yards also. Rex Burkhead only had 5 carries also, 8 yards, 1 touchdown. But had 5 receptions for 45 yards. Danny Amendola had 6 receptions for 76 yards, no touchdowns from him. And Brandon Cooks was pretty much shut down the entire game. Pretty much did and where it went wherever Xavier Howard told him to go. And yeah, Cooks only had 1 reception for 38 yards. James White had 3 receptions for 11 yards and a touchdown. And Rob Gronkowski's fill-in, Dwayne Allen, he had 2 receptions for 10 yards. So Miami did a good job of handling the tight end. I know I talked about yesterday that that's what Miami would need to do in order to have a chance at winning this game, along with putting pressure on Brady, which they did. And of course, they needed the offense to at least play better than what they've been, and that's exactly what they did. That's exactly why they got the win. But let's get into Miami stats right here. You got Jay Cutler, 25 of 38, throwing the ball, 263 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Did get sacked twice, but didn't really matter because he still played well either way. This was Jay Cutler's best game. Excuse me, got a little bit of allergies, but this was Jay Cutler's best game of the season so far for Miami, and this probably was Jay Cutler's best game that he's had in over a few years. I mean, I can't remember the last time Jay Cutler played well, and we actually, like especially on a stage like Monday Night Football against the Patriots too, and everyone's expecting them. Before I even actually, before I even get into anyone else's, like, any other stats for Miami, I mean, going into this game, you had people, like, I remember I was watching Monday Night Countdown, and I was watching the picks and all that, and you had them all say, like, they were picking the Patriots, and I completely understand why. Like, I picked the Patriots too yesterday. I thought the game was going to be I thought the game would be close, and sure enough, it was. But, I mean, pretty much no one was really expecting much. I mean, even in the commentators booth, like, it's like you were waiting for New England to come back, and Miami just somehow, some way, just kept them out of the game. But let's get back into the stats right here. You had Kenyon Drake, who had a huge game yesterday, 25 carries, 114 yards, 5 receptions for 79 yards. Jarvis Landry, 8 receptions for 46 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jakeem Grant, 2 receptions for 42 yards and 1 touchdown. And Devontae Parker had 4 receptions for 40 yards. So just a good game from all of them, pretty much. Just a great game overall from the offense, great game from the special teams, and a great game from the defense for sure. But let's get into the scoring summary, and we'll talk a little bit more about each team after this. So first quarter comes, you have Cody Parkey. He kicks a 30-yard field goal, which makes it 3-0 Miami. Later on in the first, he kicks another field goal, makes it 6-0. Second quarter comes, Rex Burkhead scores a 3-yard touchdown run, makes it 7-6. Then you got Jarvis Landry catching a 5-yard touchdown pass from Jay Cutler, which makes it 13-7. Steven Gostkowski kicks a field goal, which makes it 13-10 right before the half. Third quarter comes, Jakeem Grant catches a 25-yard touchdown pass, which makes it 20-10. I mean, the guy's only 5'8", Jakeem Grant, and he pretty much just jumped over, he mossed Malcolm Butler and pretty much made the catch over him. And it was actually pretty surprising because Jakeem Grant, he's more of a punt returner type of guy, and he's there on kick returns too, but you never really see him too much in the offense and playing on the outside part of the wide receiver position. So, I mean, Adam Gase pretty much did whatever he could to pretty much throw a bunch of different surprises at New England, and it worked. But later in that third quarter, Jarvis Landry caught another 4-yard touchdown pass from Jay Cutler, which made it 27-10. Fourth quarter comes, James White catches a 3-yard touchdown pass from Tom Brady, which makes it 27-17 Miami still. And then with 53 seconds left, Steven Gostkowski kicked the 33-yard field goal, which made it 27-20. And on that last drive where they kicked the field goal, I mean, New England was down at the 1. The first play they called at the 1-yard line was a pass play. Miami's pressure got to Tom Brady, so he had to throw it away. Second play comes up. Or actually, I think on that first play, too, actually, they threw a flag. Yeah, they threw a flag. It was an illegal motion. James White didn't get set. He started his route before the play even started. And then second play comes up, and Tom Brady throws an incompletion, but there's a holding call on the play, so New England backs up another 10 yards. And then, they pretty much couldn't get anything going given how far they were, so they had to kick the field goal. And then, like I said, they kick the field goal. They come with an onside kick. Miami recovers, and that's the ball game right there. Miami ended up winning 27-20, as I stated earlier. And I mean, this was just a great game overall from Miami. I mean, I'll talk about the Patriots in a moment, but just for Miami right here. I mean, no one really I expected it to be close, and I expected them to play well. But, and for those that don't believe me, just go ahead and check out yesterday's podcast. You can find that on iTunes, SoundCloud, or anywhere else you can find podcasts. I have to plug that real quick. But, yeah, so Miami, I mean, I expected them to play well, and sure enough, they did. I didn't think they played this well, though. Like, with Jay Cutler throwing for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, the guy looked like a totally different quarterback yesterday. I was watching the games with one of my buddies, and, like, even in the first drive, I was like, dude, they've never done this before this season. Like, this is, like, a completely different team. And he's like, oh, it's just the first quarter or whatever. And I was like, no, like, they've really never done this. Like, I was, like, completely in shock just given how they were playing in the first quarter. I even texted my dad. I was like, what's going on right here? And, yeah, sure enough, Miami was just playing well. Jay Cutler threw for 3 touchdowns. He played well. Didn't make any mistakes, really. I mean, didn't try to force the ball or anything like that. One thing I was noticing with Cutler, if something wasn't open, he's going to wait. But once the pressure gets to him, he threw the ball away instead of just trying to force it into a tight window, hoping that the defensive back wasn't going to pick the ball off. Like, you never really had to worry about that. Okay, you had Kenyon Drake, who was running the ball well. Like I said, he had over 100 yards rushing the ball, had almost 80 yards receiving. And he had one where Patrick Chung comes in unblocked and looking like he's going to make a good play and tackle Drake in the backfield. But Drake hits him with a spin move and bounces out for a big 20-yard gain, I think it was, or at least 20-plus yard gain. So, yeah, he played well. Jarvis Landry shows up big in every big game. Like I said, he had 2 touchdowns. And the defense, too, was playing well. You had Xavier Howard. I mean, I don't think it was till the late in the first half or up until the second half where Tom Brady completed a pass to his wide receivers. I mean, Brandon Cooks didn't have his first catch until the fourth quarter, I think it was. And like I said, Danny Amendola had 6 catches, but I mean, that really all came in the second half. So really, Tom Brady had trouble the entire game, and Xavier Howard pretty much was shadowing Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks couldn't get anything going. Brady looked for him for a few times on third down, but it just every single time it didn't work out. Cooks couldn't get to the ball, or Xavier Howard would just pick him off like he did twice yesterday. There was one I think it was New England's first drive where Brady threw a pick. He got sacked on, no, that was the second pick, but yeah. So the first drive comes for New England, all right, they don't look too good. Third down comes, and Brady tries to throw a little corner route to Brandon Cooks, and he underthrew it, so Howard picks him off. And then later on in the second pick, Brady got sacked on second down. Third down comes, I think it was like 3rd and 16. Brady looks deep for Brandon Cooks, and he did have a couple of steps on Xavier Howard, but somehow Xavier Howard closed up that gap and made a nice interception too, over the shoulder, goes down, gets back up, and takes the ball back for another 30 yards to get Miami's offense down around the 40-yard line around there on New England side of the field. So, I mean, like I said, as far as New England goes, I mean, Tom Brady didn't play well at all. Like I said, he couldn't complete a pass on third down. New England couldn't complete a third down to save their life. They went 0 of 11, 0 of 10, I think it was, and that was the first time they didn't get a first down on third down since 1991, I think it is, that I saw. So, I mean, yeah, it's just not good to see from New England right here. I mean, this was like a trap game for New England, I guess you could say, all right, because they got a big game going up against Pittsburgh next week in Pittsburgh, and I know New England teams, they really don't do this. They really don't look ahead, but I feel like they overlooked Miami big time right here, because like they blew out Miami on 2 weeks ago. I think it was 35-17, and like what Miami was doing in this game as far as offensively and defensively was completely different than what they were doing in the last game. They completely switched up their offense. They completely switched up their defense. It's like, I don't know how, but they somehow figured out a way to get constant pressure on Brady, okay? Then you had, like Miami had their second best corner in active Ricky Cordrea Tankersley, and you have a guy like Alteron Werner come in who's been playing poorly this entire year, and he's out here coming up with stops on third down and pretty much shutting down other players too. So, I mean, it was just an overall good team effort from Miami right here. But like I said, as far as New England goes, they couldn't run the ball because they really chose not to run the ball. I know they were down big in the second half, 27-10, but I feel like they still, I mean, like I said, New England only lost this game by 7, so they were still in the game even though they were down by 17 for most of it in the second half. But, yeah, they should have just ran the ball a whole lot more. I mean, they really never gave either running back a chance. Okay, like I said, they only ran the ball 10 times. Deion Lewis and Rex Burkhead did were productive in the passing game. But, I mean, when you're being one-dimensional the entire game, it's going to be easy for the defense to decide what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. So, yeah, just Tom Brady and that offense didn't play well, and that defense really had no answer for Jay Cutler and Kenyon Drake. They were running a lot of bootlegs, too, and the defense kept biting on every single one of them. So whenever Jay Cutler rolled out, it was most likely going to be a completion, and they couldn't really tackle Drake or at least get to him at the line. So he really had all kinds of room to get going. But now with the Patriots, like I said, they got the Steelers next week, and I'm not too sure that they can even beat the Patriots or even make it a good game. Because if the Patriots defense can't even handle Jay Cutler, because I'm sure the Steelers had to have been watching this game and trying to figure out ways in order to beat the Steelers, pretty much learning from what Miami was doing. Because like I said, the bootlegs kept faking out the Patriots, and on third down, I mean, they kept looking for Brandon Cooks and weren't really trying for anything else. So I mean, next week against the Steelers, how are the Patriots going to really deal with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, the best receiver and best running back in the league, when you got those guys out here? Pretty much, I think it was 5 straight games or 4 straight games they've had at least 100 yards from scrimmage. Then you got Big Ben out here throwing for over 500 yards, and the Steelers defense didn't look like they've looked bad the last couple of weeks, but they didn't look nearly as bad as the Patriots did yesterday. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the Steelers are going to be able to win that one. So I mean, we're going to learn a lot about these two teams going forward. And if the Steelers win, then obviously they're probably going to finish 14-2 because I think they got the Texans and then the Browns in Week 17, and the Patriots got the Steelers, the Bills, and the Jets. So I mean, it's either going to be both teams finish 13-3 or the Steelers finish 14-2 and New England finishes 12-4. Yeah, so we'll see how it all ends up. But as for the Miami Dolphins, I mean, they got a legit shot at making playoffs. They have to win out, and that's not too difficult because they got the Bills and Buffalo. So obviously that sounds pretty difficult right there. But when you think that Nathan Peterman might be starting, then I think if with Peterman out there, Miami has all the chances in the world to win that game. And if Peterman does start over Tyrod Taylor, even if Tyrod Taylor starts, just given how Miami played on Monday night, if they're able to pretty much have the offense playing like this, then the defense is going to play well too. Because I mean, the defense has been playing poorly the last few weeks, but Miami's offense hasn't been able to stay on the field. If you remember like the first 7-10 weeks of the season, Miami had a top 10 defense, but I mean, eventually the how do you say what is it? The stamina? No, it's not stamina. Just they were exhausted. They were gassed. They were on the field for most of the game, for every game, and it pretty much caught up to them. But now with Miami's offense playing well the last couple of weeks, who knows? You might see the defense start to play a whole lot better. And like I said, they can beat Buffalo And week 17, they play Buffalo in Miami. So that's boom. That could be 2 wins right there. And their toughest game is going to be against the Chiefs in 2 weeks. That one's in Arrowhead, I think it is. So Miami's going to need to figure out a way to get past the Chiefs. But if they win out, I mean, they got a really good shot at winning the playoffs because they need Baltimore to lose. But I think just given how Tennessee, their schedule coming up, Tennessee's going to finish 9-7. And Miami's got the head-to-head tiebreaker against them. So if Tennessee finishes 9-7, Miami finishes 9-7, Baltimore finishes 10-6, and let's say the Chiefs somehow finish 9-7 too. Miami gets in out of those 3 teams right there because they'd have the tiebreakers against both since they beat the Titans. And if Miami finishes 9-7, obviously that means that they'd have to beat Kansas City. So it's exciting going into the last 3 games of the season for Miami. So we'll see how they end up. I know Adam Gase. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about him, whether or not he's the coach who he was last year. Last year was a fluke, but it's looking like he's starting to figure it out. So we'll see how it all ends up. But next up, I think we're going to go with the NFC route. We're going to talk about the NFC, talk about some teams in there, talk about the Eagles a little bit more and Carson Wentz, and pretty much talk about anything else going on in the NFC. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Once again, the Miami Dolphins beat the Patriots on Monday night, 27-20. Patriots are now 11-3, and the Dolphins are now 6-7, looking for a wild card spot. So we'll see how it all ends up, but that's going to wrap it up for this segment, and we'll be right back. So stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. If you missed that last segment or need a quick reminder, we basically just talked about the Miami Dolphins and New England Patriots game yesterday on Monday night. Miami won that one 27-10. Jay Cutler had a big game right there, 3 touchdowns. Kenyon Drakehouse had almost 200 all-purpose yards yesterday. Tom Brady really couldn't get going at all, threw for 1 touchdown, but did have 2 interceptions. Xavier Howard had those 2 picks right there. Has 4 interceptions in his last 2 games. New England couldn't convert on 3rd down yesterday. They went 0 of 10. First time they did that since 0 of 10, 0 of 11, 0 of 9 on 3rd down. I can't remember exactly, but either way, they did not get a first down on 3rd down. That was the first time they've done that since 1991, and now they got a tough game going against the Steelers on next week on Sunday, so see how it all ends up for them. But I mean, Miami's now worrying about the wild card. They're only game back, so we'll see how that ends up for them also. So both teams, I guess the Dolphins needed this game obviously more than the Patriots did, and they pulled it out, so we'll see how it ends up for them. But we'll talk a little bit about the whole wild card situation in the next segment. We're going to be talking about some NFC football in this segment. So, all right, let's talk about it right now. You got, let's see, who do we want to talk about first from the NFC? Let me talk about the Packers, all right? So they did their job, all right? Brett Hundley did his job. Let me see his record since Rodgers went down. If I could pull it up right here. I got the schedule. Be patient with me, please. Let's see. Might have to go back a few games right here. There he is, Brett Hundley. Let's see. Wait, went down against the Vikings, I think. Yeah, he went down against the Vikings. Okay. Rodgers gets hurt. And, all right, so let's see. After the Vikings, they lost to the Saints. They lost to the Lions. They beat the Bears, so that's 1-2. Lost to the Ravens, 1-3. Lost to the Steelers, 1-4. Beat the Bucks, 2-4. Beat the Browns, 3-4. All right, so in that 7-game stretch with Rodgers out, Brett Hundley was bad enough to where, like mediocre, average enough to where he got the team to around 500. I know it's 3-4, but I mean, like I said, it's around 500. So he got him to 7-6, all right? He did all right. Didn't do great. He did all right. Now you're probably going to have Rodgers coming in against Carolina this week. If the Packers beat the Panthers this week with Rodgers out there and Rodgers looks fine, the Packers are without a doubt going to win their next 2 games. And if the Packers win their next 2 games, they're most likely going to make the playoffs, at least have a chance at making the playoffs. And if the Packers make the playoffs, all right, I'm just going to say this right now. If the Packers make the playoffs, I have them in as a lock to make the NFC Championship. It might just be Aaron Rodgers coming back, so I'm getting all excited thinking, oh yeah, they're going to be a whole lot better because we still do have a bunch of other good teams like the Saints, Philly's done, the Vikings. I don't really think that they're going to play in the divisional round, have a bye, but I don't think they're going to be able to pull out a win against one of these experienced teams. Because even the Rams too, I don't think they're going to really make it too far. They'll probably win the wild card game unless it's against the Packers or against the Packers, unless they play the Panthers too. I think the Panthers match up well against the Rams, and I think that the Panthers will be able to pull that one out. But yeah, just if the Packers were to make the playoffs, dude, I mean, how can you bet against Aaron Rodgers, really, especially if he were to help them get into the playoffs? Because obviously they're not in it yet. They're only a game back, I think it is, of the 6th spot and the 5th spot, I think. Let me double check it right here. Let me see if I can pull up the standings. But yeah, I mean, if with them being they got the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Lions. So yeah, if they were to beat the Panthers, the Vikings, and even the Lions, those are all 3 good teams right there. If Rodgers is able to beat all those teams and make the playoffs, I mean, there's really no reason to pick against him because just given how he's been, just given how he does. I mean, you really, it's just something about the Packers. I mean, I think it's going to be the Saints and the Packers in the NFC Championship. And I'd rather see one of those 2 teams play in the Super Bowl because I don't think the Vikings are ready yet, especially with Case Keenum. I mean, I guess they are ready, but I just don't think that Case Keenum is the quarterback to take him to the Super Bowl, even though he's played well so far this season. I mean, I got the guy on my fantasy team, and I'm talking bad about him, I guess. But the Rams, they're too young right now. Jared Goff, he's a second-year quarterback. Don't think he's going to be able to get the Rams that far. And then let's see, Cam Newton could always get him that far, but I mean, Cam Newton could always face a team like the Seahawks and lose. Let's see. You got like I said, the Saints got a good chance of making it to the NFC Championship and a Super Bowl, and then you got Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta's gonna make the playoffs. I think it's gonna be Philly and Minnesota at number 1. All right. Then you're gonna have the Rams at number 3. I'm gonna pick them to win the division. Then the Saints at number 4. I'm picking them to win the division. Then I got Carolina finishing in at least one of the wild card spots. So the 6th wild card spot is gonna come down to Atlanta. It's gonna come down to Seattle. It's gonna come down to Green Bay. Don't think it'll be Detroit because I think Green Bay's beating Detroit either way in Week 17. So I think if either team has 7 losses, and that puts you out. And you know what? If Dallas can beat the Raiders this week, actually, yeah, we'll talk about Dallas in a little bit. But yeah, so it's going to come down to Dallas, Green Bay, Seattle, and Atlanta. And I don't think Atlanta's going to make it. So it's really just Seattle, Green Bay, and Dallas for me. All right, so if Green Bay finds a way to get in, dude, I mean, you really can't pick against them. Obviously, if they were to beat the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Lions. Those are 3 tough teams right there. So I'm really going for this Saints versus Packers NFC Championship, and hopefully we get like a Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady Super Bowl. I think Pittsburgh, as of right now, I think Pittsburgh might end up in the Super Bowl just given because they're the best team in the AFC, and they've been playing extremely well. So either give me Drew Brees versus Ben Roethlisberger or give me Rodgers versus Tom Brady. I don't want Rodgers versus Roethlisberger again, and I don't want Brees versus Brady would be cool, but I feel like the Patriots would win that one. I feel like the biggest game would be Rodgers versus Brady, pretty much the passing of the torch type of game right there. But let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. They beat the Oakland Raiders this week. They're 8-6, and you know who's coming back next week finally? Ezekiel Elliott. If the Cowboys are 8-6 with Ezekiel Elliott back, they're playing the Seahawks. I think the Cowboys could beat the Seahawks, and I think they could beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 17 with Ezekiel Elliott. So if Dallas is finished 10-6, then they might be in the playoffs. I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, the whole wild card thing in the NFC is going to come down to Week 17, obviously, and we're going to find out who's going to have those 2 spots. Right, I'm going Carolina, and if I had to pick one, then I'd go Green Bay. Yeah, Green Bay and Carolina is my picks right now, but I mean that could change. You might have Seattle jump in there, but yeah, just going back to Dallas, I mean, you got them with Ezekiel Elliott coming back. That team is dangerous with Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. Dak Prescott plays a whole lot better than he does when Ezekiel Elliott's back there. When he's not back there, then Dak Prescott looks like a poor man's Alex Smith, as I like to say. But I mean, like, imagine if Dallas was to get in the playoffs. And they already know what the playoffs are like. Last year they made the playoffs and they should have beat the Green Bay Packers, but that defense pretty much let Rodgers do what he wanted on that last drive, and that's when Mason Crosby was able to kick that field goal and pretty much broke Dallas's heart right there. But if Dallas gets back into the playoffs, Dak Prescott's going to have it in the back of his mind what we've all been saying about him. I know these players trying to say, we knock out, like, to take out the noise, not really listen to outside voices or anything. That's a lie. They're all humans just like us, okay? They listen to that stuff, and it does get to them or at least motivate them a little bit. So you know Dak Prescott's going to be out there in the playoffs trying to prove something. You got Ezekiel Elliott trying to just be a monster when he comes back. I mean, the guy went overseas prior to Germany or somewhere to go train. He's going to come back like a monster, running well, and I kind of need I got to win this week in fantasy because if Zeke comes back. camp, boom, I'm going to win the championship without a doubt. But either way, going back to the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, if they make the playoffs, I mean, that's going to be a dangerous team. They can beat the Eagles in the playoffs. They can beat the Vikings in the playoffs. Packers would be tough, but I'm guessing if Dallas makes the playoffs, that means the Packers miss out. Team like, let's see, they could beat the Rams, I think. Just like I said, Goff is a young quarterback. I don't think he's ready yet for a Super Bowl or NFC championship. And the Saints, they'd struggle against, I feel, a little bit because Kamara and Mark Ingram, they got their little two-headed monster playing running back. And they probably wouldn't have to play Carolina unless it was in the NFC championship. So, I mean, if Dallas gets in, watch out for them. Let's see what else we got going on in the NFC. I got a cough real quick. All right, so let's talk about the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo, all right? The guy threw for 333 yards. I think it is 334, one of those. Let's see if I got it right. Let me pull up the stats right here from the game against the Texans. All right, so he had 334 yards, completed 20 out of his 33 passes, had 1 touchdown and 1 interception, all right? So it's looking like, it's only been 2 games so far with the 49ers, but in these 2 games, he's looked pretty good, all right? He looks comfortable in the pocket. He moves around extremely well. He has good vision, okay? Knows when to get rid of it. He pretty much plays like, yeah, he came from the Patriots. I know when the 49ers traded their high second-round pick for him, I was kind of skeptical of it because Bill Belichick really doesn't trade away talent, and if he does, I mean, it's pretty much like the talent, like whoever he's trading away isn't that good anymore. So, yeah, Bill Belichick ended up trading away Garoppolo, and I was thinking, you know what, Bill really doesn't trade away like his best players or anything like that, or good players. So maybe he knows something about Jimmy G that we don't. But I know Jimmy G was going to end up being a free agent after this year, and Adam Schefter was reporting that Garoppolo wasn't going to re-sign with the Patriots because he wanted to go start somewhere. So I do understand the Patriots trade, and it's looking like Garoppolo, like I said, he's going to be that guy. It looks like he might be worth that early second-round pick that they gave up to the Patriots. And right now I'm kind of just pretty much trying to decide trying to think about what the 49ers are going to do in the draft, okay? Because let's say that they do keep Jimmy Garoppolo, which I think they will, all right? Do you still want to draft I don't think you draft a quarterback with that first round pick given how high it is, even though you could end up with like a Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold or even a Baker Mayfield type of guy who I'm not too sure how he's going to end up in the NFL, like how he's going to play. And then you could end up with a guy like Lamar Jackson too, but I feel like if they wanted Lamar Jackson, you just trade down. But either way, I think they should trade down unless they're set on Saquon Barkley being their guy, okay? If Kyle Shanahan's out there thinking, you know what, I want Saquon Barkley on my team, I need Saquon Barkley on my team, then you stay at that number 3 pick because I think that's where they're going to end up. They're going to end up at 3 or 4. They'll probably 3 or 4, but I don't think it's going to matter because the Giants are going to have to pick up a quarterback, the Browns are going to pick up a quarterback, and Denver's going to need a quarterback too. So they're going to be safe picking up Barkley. But if they feel that they don't need Barkley, then if I'm them, I'm trading down. All right, because you probably do have the quarterback position set, or if that's what they are thinking, that they do have the quarterback position set, then they have a whole lot of other areas on the offense that they need to build around. So I feel trade back that 3rd or 4th round or 4th pick in the first round for more picks and probably get a pick around. You could probably trade with a team like Washington, who's got only 5 wins right now. I believe they're 5-8. So if Washington finishes the season 5-10, they'll probably end up being top 10 around their 10-11 range. So that's a good spot for San Francisco to end up at right there. You could still pick up a guy like Calvin Ridley to play a wide receiver, and then because that guy's without a doubt the best wide receiver in the draft coming out of Alabama. So yeah, you can end up with a guy like Calvin Ridley playing receiver. That's your number 1 receiver right there. Boom, you got a toy for Jimmy Garoppolo to throw to, okay? And then you have all those other picks. Like I'm sure you can get a second round. Like you can get the Redskins' first round pick, which will be 10 and 11, like I said. And then you could probably end up with their second round pick because I know whoever trades up with the 49ers is going to have to give up a lot. So it's going to be at least your first and second round pick and maybe another like a 4th or 5th round pick. Boom, that's 2 extra picks right there to build your team around. So if I'm the 49ers, and they don't think that they need Saquon Barkley, or at least they feel like they need to build more, then trade down and get a bunch of those picks and end up with a guy like Calvin Ridley, and they'll get this rebuild going even more. But let's see, we got a couple minutes left in this segment. Any other teams that deserve to be talked about in the NFC? I know I talked about the Eagles yesterday a bunch, but just going back to them, I'm not too sure. Like, I've been trying to figure out how to work with Nick Foles, and Nick Foles pretty much needs to be a game manager quarterback, all right? You have a good team around you. Just don't try and do too much, okay? You don't need to throw for 4 touchdowns or anything like that. Just don't throw for any interceptions, all right? Just have the offense stay on the field for quite a bit, drive down the field, all right? Have Jay Ajayi do his thing. I mean, you got good receivers and Alshon Jeffrey. Then you got Zach Ertz out there, too, as a security blanket right there. And then the defense is always going to keep them in the game. So in order for the Eagles to make this work, I personally think that they're done. But if they were to somehow make this work and make it to the NFC Championship, then they need the defense to play. They just pretty much need Nick Foles not to do too much. Don't come out and try to be like Carson Wentz, because you'll never be that. Don't come out and try and be like the guy who threw 27 touchdowns for 2 interceptions, because that guy's gone forever, all right? This Nick Foles right here, you need to pretty much, like I said, be an Alex Smith type of quarterback. Be a game manager. Don't throw for any interceptions, and don't try and do too much. You do that, then you got a chance at making the NFC Championship. But we're just going to see how it ends up for them, because, I mean, like I said, I'm not really a believer in them right now. But it's football. They're going to have that first round bye in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's even more time to get them ready. So we'll see how it ends up. It could end up good, or it could end up bad like I'm thinking. But we just have to wait for time to tell. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to talk about the AFC, talk about teams in there, and talk about that whole wild card situation. And for that last segment, we'll talk about anything else going on in football, and pretty much whatever else comes to mind. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast, or podcast. I sound like a dude from Boston saying podcast, but yeah, GSMC Football Podcast. Let's see what we talked about last time. We talked about the 49ers, what they should do with that top pick that they're gonna have. Obviously not top pick, because the Browns own that position, but it's gonna be around the number 3 pick, probably number 4 pick, I'm guessing. But yeah, I think they should trade down. I think they should try and get Calvin Ridley and build up picks so they can just build more on that team. But it's either going to be Saquon Barkley, or I think they trade down. So, I mean, if I'm them, I'm trading down and trying to get Ridley, because obviously if they think Jimmy G is the guy, then go out and get him a big-time receiver, because Marquise Goodwin, he's not that. All right, Marquise Goodwin, he's a good down-the-field deep threat, but he's not someone you want to be your number 1 guy. I know they got Pierre Garçon, who's on IR right now. We'll see how he does when he comes back. But either way, I still wouldn't want Pierre Garçon to be my top receiver either. I'd rather have it with a guy with more upside, like Calvin Ridley, who I think is better than both of them. So even coming out of Alabama. So we'll see what they do. But if I'm them, I'm trading back and drafting Calvin Ridley and building up picks so I can just pretty much build around my team a whole lot more. You can get away with getting a running back, because I'm not sure if they want Barkley, if they're thinking Barkley because they don't like Carlos Hyde anymore, or they just think it's time for a new running back. But you can get a running back in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. So if I'm them, I'm staying away from Barkley right now, going to get Ridley and building up those picks. But I'm not the GM. John Lynch is, so we'll see what he wants to do. But we also talked about the Packers, how dangerous they'll be if they end up making the playoffs, because in order for them to make the playoffs, with Rodgers coming back this week, it's looking like they're going to have to beat the Panthers, they're going to have to beat the Vikings, and they're going to have to beat the Lions. Those are all 3 good teams right there, and if you beat those 3 teams and get into the playoffs, you're a dangerous team without a doubt. And obviously, if Aaron Rodgers is out there playing quarterback, they're even more dangerous. So if the Packers get into the playoffs, watch out for them to make a little Super Bowl run. But let's see, we talked about the Eagles a little bit, talked about what it's going to take for Nick Foles to pretty much give the Eagles a chance to make that NFC Championship, maybe the Super Bowl, but I don't even want to say that word out loud when it comes to the Eagles right now because really they need to focus on trying to make the NFC Championship. But it's really going to take Nick Foles being a game manager. Don't do too much. Don't throw any picks. Let the team around you play well and pretty much try and play off of them. Don't try and pretty much be the hero because that's not going to work. But we'll see how it all ends up. I mean, if Philly ends up making that wild card, they're probably going to end up playing either the number 6 team in the NFC, which is going to be a tough team. It's going to be Dallas, it's going to be the Green Bay Packers, or it's going to be the Seahawks. I don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs, or it could be the Panthers, or it could be the Saints. So we'll see how it all ends up. But if I'm Philly, really just trying to get Nick Foles in there, get him ready. They do have that first round bye in the playoffs, so it might work out well for them. But let's talk about the AFC a little bit. Who do we want to start off with in the AFC? All right, so the Jets, 5-8. Josh McCown broke his hand. They're not winning the game for the rest of the season. I'm putting money on that if I could, all right? They're going to finish the season 5-11, finish with a 9th, 10th pick, 8th pick, probably around there, 11th pick maybe. That's also a team to look out for trading with San Francisco in the draft, okay? Because the Jets, no one really thought they'd do too much this season, all right? I mean, personally, I thought they weren't going to win any more than 3-4 games, and that would have gave them a top 5, top 7 pick at least. But now that they won 5 games, they're 5-8. Let me see their schedule, actually. I mean, Bryce Petty's going to be the quarterback going forward. So obviously they really don't have much of a chance against anyone. But let me check their schedule just in case they play a team like the Browns. Oh, so they play the Saints. That's a loss. They play the Chargers. That's a loss. They play the Patriots. That's a definite loss. So yeah, the Jets are losing out. All right. I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. It's the truth, all right? The Jets are done. Season's over. They're going to finish 5-11. So what are they going to do in the draft? They need a quarterback, without a doubt. They're going to have to trade up. The Jets are probably going to be that team that the 49ers get the most picks out of, okay? Because like I said, the Washington Redskins are going to need to trade up too. But I feel like the Jets, they need a quarterback way more than the Redskins do, all right? Because the Redskins are going to lose Kirk Cousins, but, I mean, the Jets have been without a good quarterback for what? When's the last time Mark Sanchez was there? Mark Sanchez wasn't even a good quarterback. I mean, he got up to the 2 AFC championships, but it could have been more of just a run and hit you in the mouth type of running game and defense that they had. But yeah, I mean, Mark Sanchez was probably their best quarterback for a while. I mean, they had Fitzpatrick out there, but that guy's not good at all. He's the interception king. Let's see, who else? I mean, when's the last time the Jets actually, like, Chad Pennington? Brett Favre? Is that the best quarterback the Jets have had since now? I think it is. I think Brett Favre is the best quarterback that they've had since then. And Brett Favre didn't even make the playoffs with the Jets. So I guess you could say, I mean, Brett Favre at 40 years old, or 41, or however old that guy was. I mean, he could have been 100 for all I know. But, yeah, it's either Brett Favre or Chad Pennington is the last quarterback that they've had that was decent. So, yeah, they're definitely going to need to pick up a quarterback. They should go Josh Rosen. I feel like I'm not even sure who the Browns are going to pick up at quarterback. If I'm the Browns, I'm not picking up Darnold. And I just feel like Josh Rosen wouldn't be a good fit for the Browns. I'm going to call it right now. The Browns are going to end up taking Baker Mayfield, dude. They're going to draft a position. You know what the Browns should do with that number 1 pick? They should use that because they're going to have the number 5 pick too, or at least around there, whatever the Texans finish at. Let me see what the Texans are going to finish at right now. Let's see. Let me pull up the stats, the standings, I mean. Texans, where you at? There you are, Houston. Let's see. You're going for it. The Texans got the Jags, the Steelers, and the Colts. All right, so the Texans got a good chance at finishing 5-11, 4-12. Probably going to be 4-12. So, I mean, the Browns are going to have that pick, okay? So, if the Browns have that pick, which is going to be around number 4 and number 5, if I'm them, I'm trading the number 1 pick back. All right? Because I think that, like, this is just me thinking that they're going to take Baker Mayfield, okay? You can get Baker Mayfield at number 5. So trade that number 1 pick to someone like the Jets who need a quarterback for sure. All right, you're going to get a bunch of, at least 3 or, you can get probably at least 5 picks out of the Jets, 4 picks at the very least out of the Jets for that number 1 spot, all right? So, yeah, you got the Browns at number 4, number 5 picking. You can get Baker Mayfield right there, and then you can get another top player in the top 10 right there. And then, boom, you have about 3 or 4 more picks you got to deal with for that draft and drafts after that, too. So, if I'm the Browns, I'm going to try and trade back that number 1 pick. Who was I even talking about right now? Was I talking about the Browns the entire time? I think I was. Or was I talking about the Jets? Yeah, I was talking about the Jets. But But yeah, the Jets are gonna have to trade up, and like I said, if I'm the Browns, I'm gonna trade that number 1 pick since you already got a high pick. You could probably end up with a guy like Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen, still even at number 5 or at number 4. And like I said, you're probably gonna end up taking Baker Mayfield. That's just off my gut right there. So we'll see what the Browns try to do. But let's see, who else should we talk about next? Let's talk about this whole wild card situation right here. Okay. Let's see. You got Tennessee at 8-5. But they have the 49ers coming up, then they got the Rams, and then the Jags. So I think at the very best case scenario for the Titans, they're going to finish out 1-2 for these next 3 games. All right, so yeah, they're going to finish out 1-2. That's 9-7 right there, okay? Buffalo's got Miami. So Buffalo's 7-6. Then you got Baltimore at 7-6. The Chargers at 7-6. Oakland at 6-7 and Miami at 6-7. All right, I'm riding off Oakland right now. Don't think that they're going to make the playoffs. Don't think that they're good enough to make the playoffs. Okay, Oakland has just been a huge disappointment so far this season. They got the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Chargers. If they lose one, like Oakland has to win out, and I just simply don't think they're going to win out. I don't think that's going to happen. So if they don't win out, they're out. Okay, Miami. They actually have a decent chance at winning out because they're probably going to be playing the Bills with Nathan Peterman playing quarterback, and that guy just downright is terrible, all right? He's not a good quarterback. At least he's not terrible. He's a rookie. But, I mean, the Dolphins against Nathan Peterman, they have a good chance, all right? So they play Buffalo twice. They can pull out those 2 wins, and like I said, if you've been listening on these last few podcasts, I'm not high on Kansas City at all, so I think Miami could beat Kansas City. So let's say Miami gets to 9-7, okay? I've been saying over and over, Kansas City's not making the playoffs, and the Chargers are winning that division, okay? So you get the Chargers at 7-6, who are above Miami right now. All right, Chargers move into that 4th spot. Kansas City moves out. Let's say Kansas City finishes 9-7. Well, this is my predictions, all right? It's going to be Kansas City finishing 9-7. The Tennessee Titans finishing 9-7. I'm going to give them that win against the 49ers, even though, like, just for right now, just for the sake of conversation, because if I had to pick, I'm going to go with the 49ers at home, especially with how bad the Tennessee Titans have been playing and with how good Jimmy G has been playing these last couple of weeks. Okay, then obviously if Miami goes 9-7, that means the Buffalo Bills are going to finish 7-9 because they're not beating the Patriots. All right, like I said, Oakland's done if they lose. So you got the Baltimore Ravens at 10-6, which I think they'll move up to the 5th spot, and then you'll have the Tennessee Titans at 9-7, the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-7. And the Miami Dolphins at 9-7, fighting for that 6th spot. If they all 3 of them finish 9-7, Miami gets in because Kansas City, they'll have the tiebreaker over Kansas City, since I'm having them choosing for them to beat them. That's my pick right there. And they'd get in over Tennessee because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker also, and plus they'd have the better conference record at 8-4, I believe. So right now, I'm not going to make my wildcard predictions, but I think Baltimore's going to get in for sure, and it's going to be Tennessee, Kansas City, and Miami fighting for that 6th spot. Once again, I think Miami's going to be fighting for that 6th spot, so that means Buffalo's going to be out. I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to win out, and the Chargers are winning their division. So we'll see how it all ends up right there, but let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars right here, okay? So I've been listening to a bunch of sports talk and all that stuff, and I've been kind of like quiet on the Jags right here because I don't really like Blake Bortles as a quarterback. But they got the number 1 defense in the league, right? They got one of the better running backs in the league, and Leonard Fournette, rookie or not, doesn't matter. He's one of the better running backs in the league, okay? They got D.D. Westbrook, who came back off of IR, I think it was, and he's been playing well since he came back. And then you got Marquise Lee, who's been playing well, okay? So going back to that number 1 defense, though, if you have the number 1 defense in the league, you're always going to have a chance to win a game. Doesn't matter who it is, who you're playing, or where you're playing, all right? If your defense is out here playing lights out, you're always going to have a chance. And Blake Bortles, these last 2 games, has probably had the best 2 games of his career, for being honest here. I know he used to have those garbage time numbers back a couple years back when he blew up for fantasy football and all that, but that's not who Blake Bortles is, all right? He's going to be a guy who throws for around 300 yards, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, all right? And that's exactly what he did the last 2 games. And that's exactly what he needs to do going forward. If Blake Bortles just keeps the turnovers down and doesn't throw for, like I said, just doesn't throw for any interceptions, or maybe like one or a game or whatever, I mean, they're going to have a chance to make the AFC Championship. And yeah, just like it's pretty interesting to see. Like I said, I've been down on them. Didn't think that they'd even win their wild card game, because they're going to end up in the wild card. Like I said, the Pittsburgh Steelers and New England Patriots are going to finish those top 2 spots. But now I'm starting to come around on the Jaguars and starting to think that, you know what, they do have a legitimate shot. A legitimate shot to win their first game, and then they'd be playing like a team like Pittsburgh or the Patriots. Against the Patriots, I mean, I like the Jaguars' chances. I mean, I'm not going to go out making picks right now or anything like that. I'm going to wait till it's playoff time for all that. But like that Jaguars defense against Tom Brady, that's going to cause him fits. That is literally from unit to unit, from the defensive line, the linebackers, and the secondary, that is the best defense in the league, okay? And if we learned anything from last night's game between Miami and New England, Tom Brady does not like when he's got pressure on him, okay? He pretty much shrinks when there's pressure on him. He's not a bad quarterback or anything like that, but Tom Brady is beatable when you're putting defensive linemen in his face and sacking him, okay? So, I mean, against the Patriots, they're not going to be able to score too many points against that defense. And like I said, New England's defense, they give up a bunch of yards. They don't really give up too many points, but I mean, how long can you sustain that as a successful type of formula for your defense? Okay, because that's not going to work every time. Like you saw yesterday, Miami put 27 points on them and put up a bunch of yards. Leonard Fournette, he's going to eat against that defense. And like I said, Blake Bortles has been playing good these last couple of games, so maybe he's going to be able to pull it out and play well, but I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. But yeah, Jacksonville is a team I'm really looking forward to see how they do in the playoffs. I've been pretty much down on them in the playoffs for when that comes up, but I think I've been coming around. I think they do have a good chance. I mean, at least to compete against a team like the Patriots, and possibly make the NFC or the AFC Championship, but only time will tell. But for next up, we're gonna talk a little bit about we're going to do some power rankings for the NFL since the week's over. Yeah, we're going to do that, and we'll talk a little bit about the Patriots getting Kenny Britt off of waivers. That just happened today. So, yeah, we'll do that. So, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Now, last segment we talked about the AFC teams, talked about the wild card race, talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and whether or not I think that they can make the AFC Championship. And who else did we talk about? I think did we just talk about them? I think it was just that. Yeah, we just spent most of those topics on there. So, yeah, that's it. But for this segment, we're going to do some NFL power rankings. So, let's just get right into it right now, off the jump. At number 1, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, they're 12-2, I believe. Yeah, 12-2. And pretty much got Antonio Brown in the MVP race. And Ben Roethlisberger's been playing well. Le'Veon Bell's always good for 100 scrimmage yards a game at least. So, yeah, right now, they're the best team in the NFL. At number 2, I got the Minnesota Vikings. This really does have to do with Carson Wentz going down, but Minnesota right now, with Carson Wentz out, they are now the best team in the NFC. Just lost to the Panthers, but I think they're going to be able to pick it up. Let's see. At number 3, I got the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, with Carson Wentz out, they're probably going to drop a few spots unless they're able to win out. But we're going to see how Philly's able to deal with all this. At number 4, I got the New England Patriots. They just lost to the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football, 27-20. So, I mean, the Patriots right now just really got to figure it out. They got a big game in Pittsburgh next week. They set off with the Steelers. So, I mean, if New England doesn't win that one, then they're going to be looking a whole lot weaker than looking strong, I guess you could say. At number 5, I got the New Orleans Saints. They've been playing well. They're one of my teams, I think, that can come out of the NFC into the Super Bowl. I think it's more the Saints. Honestly, if the Packers don't end up making the playoffs, I think that it's going to be the Saints that make the Super Bowl out of the NFC, just because they got Drew Brees, and Sean Payton and both Drew Brees know what it's like to get there, know what it takes to get there. So, yeah, I got the Saints at number 5. At number 6, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Currently got the best defense in the league, got one of the better running backs in the league, got a good receiving core, and then their quarterback Blake Bortles has been playing well too these last few games. So, I mean, with that formula, it's a team that can make the AFC Championship and make some noise. So, we'll see if they'll be able to. At number 7, I got the Los Angeles Rams. They just lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. And Jared Goff played all right. He had, I think, around 200 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. And I think they are going to win their division, but I don't think they're going to be able to do much in the playoffs just because I think they're too young right now. Even with the coach, they got the youngest coach in the league. So right now the Rams just really got to just pretty much figure out how to be playing in these games. So, yeah, I got them at number 7. At number 8, I got a sleeper team right here in the playoffs that could make it to the Super Bowl, the Carolina Panthers, all right? Cam Newton, he's pretty much, we've all learned over this year that the guy's not accurate. He can't throw the ball he's not accurate as a quarterback. So, I mean, really, though, it's not something that's going to hold him back from making the Super Bowl because obviously they're winning with, in spite of that. Cam's really at his best when he takes off with the ball and uses his legs. And, what was I going to say right now? That defense has been playing well. The linebacking core has been playing extremely well. Then you got Jonathan Stewart, who's been playing well. Christian McCaffrey's a good versatile back who can catch the ball for you or run the ball. Devin Funchess has played well since Kelvin Benjamin left the team. And pretty much, yeah, they got an all-around solid team. They pretty much got a good running game, and they got a good defense, and that's all you could ask for, really. At number 9, I got the Seattle Seahawks. They just lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Atlanta currently has the wild card spot over them, but I still think Seattle is a better team than Atlanta, and I don't even with Atlanta beating Seattle too. Maybe it's just me not thinking Atlanta is a good team at all, really, or at least not as good as they should be. But yeah, I got Seattle at number 9. They got 2 tough games coming up. They got the who they got? They got the Rams. And then the Cowboys with Ezekiel Elliott coming back, and then they got the Cardinals. So right now, Seattle really can't afford another loss. I mean, if they do, they have to win out. So they need to figure out a way to go 2-1 in these next 3 games at least. At number 10, I got the Los Angeles Chargers, probably the 4th hottest team in the AFC right now. Phillip Rivers has been playing well. Melvin Gordon's been playing well. Keenan Allen's been playing well. Tyrell Williams, Hunter Henry, and that defense. Pretty much that team is hitting on all cylinders right now, so that's going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs to watch for. And you know what? I wouldn't put it past them for making the AFC Championship because they're just that good right now. So we'll see how it all ends up. I kind of hope that they do make it to the AFC Championship because I really like Phillip Rivers as a quarterback, and I know that these are going to be his last few years, probably 4 more years left, if that. But we'll see how it all ends up for him. But yeah, right now I got the Chargers at number 10. At number 11, I got the Atlanta Falcons. Right now they're 8-5, like I said. Currently got the 6th spot in the NFC. And you know what? I think they got the Panthers, the Bucks, and then the Saints coming up. Not in that particular order, but those are the 3 teams they got for the last 3 games. So I mean, they're gonna lose to the Saints, I feel, and they'll lose to the Panthers. So I think that the Falcons will be done, but they're gonna need to figure it out. At number 12, I got the Detroit Lions. Right now, they're currently 7-6. So if they win out, if they were to, let's see, who do they got going forward? They got the Chicago Bears, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they do have a decent chance at winning out, which they'd have to in order to make the playoffs. Because like I've said multiple times, you're going to need at least 10 wins in order to get into the playoffs for the NFC. But it's going to come down to that Week 17 game. I feel like if they beat the Green Bay Packers, then they do have a good chance of making the playoffs right there. But that's going to be the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers, I'm assuming. So at number 13, I got the Baltimore Ravens. Sorry about that. But yeah, I got the Baltimore Ravens. They just lost to the Steelers 39-38 on Sunday Night Football. And right now, Baltimore's currently 7-6. Got currently the number 7 team in the AFC. So they're not on the wild card right now because they don't have the tiebreaker over the Bills. But I think that Baltimore is going to end up winning their next 3 games. They're going to finish 10-6, and that's going to be definitely good enough to get you into the wild card. So I think they'll be fine. Joe Flacco's been playing well. I think that's going to be a dangerous playoff team too. So we'll see how it all ends up. But at number 14, I got the Tennessee Titans. That's more of a team that's trending down. They're 8-5. I think they're going to finish 9-7 at the very least, or 8-8. I mean, they got the 49ers coming up on Sunday, and I think the Niners are going to have a good game right there, and I think the Niners might even beat them. I mean, I'm going to take the week to decide that pick, but they're going to definitely lose to the Rams and the Jaguars. So, yeah, they're going to end up finishing 9-7. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But at number 15, you got the Green Bay Packers, okay? Right now, they're 7-6. They got the Panthers coming up this week, then the Vikings, and then the Lions. They should have Aaron Rodgers coming back this week. At least it's looking like it. That's everyone's hope. So if they're able to win out, then they'll be able to make the playoffs, and that'll be a dangerous team in the playoffs. At number 16, I got the Dallas Cowboys. They just beat down on the New York Giants 30-10. Dak Prescott, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, I think it was. Ezekiel Elliott's coming back next week. They got the Raiders this week on Monday night in Oakland, I think it is. So This is Dallas's season right here. If they don't beat Oakland, they don't make playoffs. 7 wins isn't going to get you in, but I think they do have a chance of beating the Raiders right now. The Raiders really haven't been playing good football all season. Derek Carr hasn't been playing like the quarterback we saw that he was last year. It could have to do with that whole back injury, but as far as Dallas goes, like I said, Dak Prescott played well last week. He just really needs to pick it up for one more week until Ezekiel Elliott gets back. If they get this win, then they're going to be a dangerous team going forward. At number 17, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. They're currently 7-6, currently got the lead in the division, or at least the tiebreaker over the Chargers. But I think they're going to end up losing out. Well, not losing out for the rest of the season, but I think they're going to end up finishing around 9-7, probably 8-8, somewhere around there. I think the Chargers are going to end up winning that division because I think they are the better team, and these teams play each other actually this Sunday. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all ends up. But let's see, at number 18, I got the Buffalo Bills. Currently, they got the 6th spot in the AFC, number 2 spot in the wild card, obviously. But it's looking like Nathan Peterman's going to be starting this week unless Tyrod Taylor comes back. But I think Buffalo's just going to stick with Peterman either way because I don't know what they see in him, but they just really want to get him going. So I think Buffalo's going to be the I think Buffalo has a good chance at losing out for the rest of the season. So they'll finish like 7-9, I think. At number 19, I got the Miami Dolphins. All right, they just beat down on the Patriots. I know it was 20-20 or 27-20, but if you watch that game, you know New England was playing catch up the entire game. Miami played extremely well. Jay Cutler had his best game of the season. Defense played extremely well. And Xavier Howard's got 4 picks in his last 2 games. All right, Kenyon Drake's been looking good ever since J.J. left, and that offense is playing a whole lot better since J.J. left. And it's looking like Miami might have actually been knowing what they were doing, trading J.J. for that 4th round pick. So right now, Miami, if they have any chance at making the wild card, they need to win out, and if they do win out, then their chances of making the playoffs are pretty. I think if they do win out, they'll make the playoffs, but nonetheless, it only rides on them winning out, so they got to figure out how to do that against the Bills twice, and they got to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, which is going to be tough. At number 20, I got the Oakland Raiders. They got the Cowboys going this week, then they got the Eagles, and then the Chargers. In order for Oakland to have a chance at making the playoffs, they need to win out just like Miami, but I don't think Oakland's winning out. They got a bit of a tough schedule, so a bit of a disappointing year. Hopefully they can pick it up next year. At 21, I got the Arizona Cardinals. This team was just pretty much hit by injuries. All right, you got David Johnson out for the year in the beginning of the year. Carson Palmer broke his arm right after they got Adrian Peterson from that trade. When they got Adrian Peterson, I mean, it was looking like this team might have been able to make a little bit of a run to have a chance to make the wild card. And then just when Carson Palmer went down and broke his arm, that was pretty much it. They've had Drew Stanton come in for a bit. He played well, but he got hurt too. So they've been having Blaine Gabbert been playing, and he's probably going to finish out this season. Adrian Peterson's probably not going to be back this season, so he'll probably, Adrian Peterson probably be looking for a new team next season. So we'll see how it all ends up for the Cardinals. But they got the guy who never ages, Larry Fitzgerald, been playing well this season too. So pretty much just playing for a draft pick now. At number 22, I got the Cincinnati Bengals. They've been a huge disappointment this season. They should have been a whole lot better than what they are right now. They got a lot of talent on that team, but just Marvin Lewis hasn't been able to put it together. I think they're not going to make the playoffs, obviously, so I think this is going to be Marvin Lewis's last year, as it should have been last year, too. I don't understand. I mean, I get that you make the playoffs year after year, but you get bounced in the first round year after year, so it's pretty much stuck in the same spot. So they really should have made this change last year, but I think it's going to happen this year finally. And we'll see what kind of coach they pick up. So they're going to need to get it right because, I mean, this is a team who needs to win now at least, and they got the talent to do so. But number 23, I got the Washington Redskins. Washington's in a tough spot right here, okay, because they're going to probably lose out for the – I don't know if they'll lose out. Right now they're 5-8, but if they get 6-7 wins, they're not going to be in a good spot to win a quarterback. They're going to have to trade up to get one. They're definitely going to trade up to get one because Kirk Cousins isn't going to be back next season. So they're really in a bad spot. If they don't get a good quarterback next season or end up with a guy like in the middle rounds, they're not gonna win too many games next season, so they really got to figure it out. 24, I got the New York Jets. That's also a team that I'm gonna guarantee trades up in the draft. Gonna trade up for a top 5 pick, at least I think top 4 pick. They're gonna need Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, at least one of those two guys. So I think they're gonna trade up at least with the 49ers possibly, but we'll see how it all ends up. Maybe they'll trade with the Browns for that 5th pick, but we'll see how. Like I said, just gonna have to wait for time to tell. At number 25, I got the Houston Texans. Their season pretty much ended. I mean, they're 4-9 right now. They're probably going to end up finishing 4-12, but it doesn't matter because they're not going to have their own pick. It's going to belong to the Browns. So, I mean, Houston really just got to wait for Deshaun Watson to come back next year and hope his knee's all healthy because they were looking like a great team when he was out there. They finally have their starting quarterback. At number 26, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the most disappointing teams along with the Oakland Raiders this season. Everyone was expecting them to do well, make the playoffs, but it just simply hasn't worked out well for them this season. So they're going to have a high draft pick, so hopefully they can do something with that. But like I said, they just a huge disappointment so far this season. Jameis Winston, we were waiting for him to take that next step. Right now, he's still a good quarterback, but he's not. He just needs to become a great one finally. At 27, I got the Chicago Bears. In the draft, they're going to need to come up with wide receivers. You might see them pick up Calvin Ridley for Mitch Trubisky because they already got their running back in Jordan Howard, and it's looking like Mitch Trubisky is going to be the quarterback for the future, and that defense has been playing well. So we'll see how it ends up for them. At number 28, I got the San Francisco 49ers. With Jimmy Garoppolo out there, they look like a totally different team. They've been competing, playing well, and they won their last 2 games. So I think they should also look at Calvin Ridley in the draft, or at least go for Saquon Barkley. But we'll see what John Lynch wants to do. At 29, I got the Denver Broncos. They're currently 4-9, but I don't really think too highly of them. They're probably going to end up with Josh Allen in the draft. So we'll pretty much see what John Elway has in plan. At 30, I got the Indianapolis Colts. That team's pretty much, it's done for them. They're waiting for Andrew Luck to come back next season if he does. So really not much to say about the Colts. At 31, I got the Giants. They're going to end up with Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen for sure. And then at 32, I got the Cleveland Browns. They're going to finish, I'll put money on it. They're going to finish the season 0-16, but they're going to end up keeping Hugh Jackson and hopefully their GM, I think it's Ken Dorsey, something like that. I know his last name is John Dorsey, Ken Dorsey, one of those, but he's really going to need to hit on a quarterback in this year's draft, because if they don't, then they're going to be in big trouble again. This team with a solid quarterback is a 6-10 team at least, so they got a lot of talent, but like I said, they're just going to need a quarterback. But that's going to round out my power rankings. Let me go through the top 10 one more time. I got Pittsburgh at number 1, Minnesota at number 2, Philly at 3, New England at 4, the Saints at 5, the Jags at 6, Rams at 7, Carolina at 8, Seattle at 9, and the Chargers at 10. So once again, those are my power rankings. If you want to rehear them, go ahead and rewind this segment. But that's actually going to wrap it up for today's show. We'll be back on Friday. But like I said, once again, this is the GSMC Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and we'll talk to you later, so stay tuned.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.